I kind of feel like I'm running out of blockbuster trades to revisit in the last decade. But we do have Carmelo Anthony, who was a part of a couple. I think this would be the most significant one. When Melo was traded to the Knicks, the Knicks gave up quite a lot for Melo. And I remember he was about to be a free agent, and it was kind of a conversation about, well, should they trade a bunch of stuff and get him now, or should they just sign him, after the year? And it's never a guarantee that you get the guy, but Melo was linked to the Knicks for a while. I remember that whole Denver season, which was not that good. It was constant every day. Melo, do you want out? Melo, do you want to go to the Knicks? And it was kind of a preview of what we see a lot nowadays when you think about it, really. So if we look at the move, we'll get into how good that Knicks team was, because I feel like revisionist history has been kind to that Knicks team before they traded for Melo. So the trade was Carmelo Anthony to the Knicks, along with Chauncey Billups and a bunch of whatever, for Wilson Chandler, Raymond Felton, Gallo, Mozgov, and a 2014 first. And I don't know exactly who that became. I think it was Dario Saric, because the Knicks did not make the playoffs in 2013/14, so it would have been a lottery pick. But that pick could have changed. I think it was Saric. So, okay, there you go. It could have been Levine or TJ Warren, but it was Saric. He was picked before them. So that was it. And that Knicks team was basically gutted once this trade happened. If we look at the starting lineup of, we'll just go to their round one series against the Celtics, which they were swept. It was the 2011 Celtics. That team was, they pushed Miami to the brink in the conference finals. So the starting lineup of that Knicks team: Carmelo Anthony, Amari Stoudemire, Tony Douglas, Ronnie Turiaf, Landry Fields. Not exactly a good team around Melo and Stoudemire. Billups had injuries, and at that point Chauncey wasn't the same guy. So it really was a matter of the Knicks just deciding, we're going to do this now. If there's a world in which they ride it out to free agency, they sign Melo. I don't really know what their payroll was. It's tough to find the payroll and the salary cap of a decade ago. I wish it was a little easier, but it's not exactly that. But we assume there was a world in which they could have signed him, and they probably could have kept some guys. I think Wilson Chandler was on his fourth year, and I'm imagining rookie contracts were still 2+2s back then, so he would have been hitting restricted free agency, I guess. Gallo was in his third season when this trade went down, so there's that for you. Just thinking about a team where it's like Melo, Chandler, Gallo, Stoudemire, if they could have afforded all of it, I don't know. Maybe one guy would have had to have been gone. In a perfect world, it would have been Stoudemire, we have since learned, but that wasn't going to happen because he did play well for that Knicks team that year, and he was locked into the big contract, so that was what it was. But it would have been fun to see Melo with just all those perimeter guys. But you can understand why the Knicks would make that trade, because, and here's the thing I touched on a little bit earlier, that Knicks team, they started out pretty good. Like, they were 16-9 at one point. They were a very streaky team. And when they traded for Melo in February, they were 29-26, I believe. 28-26. So they were a 500 team. And I can understand why a 500 team would not want to waste time with, do we get this star player, do we not? We see in the NBA the impact that a star can have on a team, and just the immediate shift you can make for, a team that might not even be that good. So it makes sense to do the move. Did they perhaps give up too much in the moment? Well, they gave up two good players, Gallo and Chandler. It's not like they were laying the world on fire. And they got a good player back in Billups. Unfortunately, Billups fell off very fast. So even then, I can see the rationale. The one thing I do remember is Stephen A. Smith just being like, you have to get Melo right now. I don't care what it takes, Now, there are other things around this move that also make it tougher to just think about the move itself and whatever. Number one, Jeremy Lin. The Linsanity happened the next year. The 2012 season was such a weird year for the Knicks. Between Stoudemire being hurt, Melo missed some time as well. The fact that Linsanity happens, of course, and then they fire Mike D'Antoni after the All-Star break. They hire Mike Woodson. It's like, in some ways, that team never had an identity, but then they also did for little stretches of time. So, in a way, you could argue the first real opportunity we got to see the benefits of trading for Carmelo Anthony were really in the 2013 season, which, of course, is the best year the Knicks have had since they went to the finals as the 8th seed, pretty much. And that season is the reason you trade for Melo, you know? 29 a game. His playmaking was still not really that good, but it seemed like he had bought in a little bit more to moving the ball and stuff. Stoudemire's injury ended up being a good thing for the team. I mean, we're not happy that a guy got hurt, of course, but in terms of the on-court product, they probably wouldn't have been as good if Stoudemire was healthy, let's just be honest here. Because if you're going with a Stoudemire-Chandler thing and you're putting one less shooter on the floor, I don't think that Knicks team would have been the same thing. And then it kind of fell off pretty quickly, and for the 2014 season, we can blame whoever. You can blame Mike Woodson for not being that good of a coach. You can blame Carmelo Anthony for not actually being a winning player, and he just had 1 year of overachieving. You can blame the organization for trading a first-round pick for Andrea Bargnani. That certainly wasn't a great thing. Was the loss of Jason Kidd just that tough to overcome? There's a lot of things there, and I mean, at this point, we're basically just talking about Melo's entire tenure with New York, but I feel like it's all a very interesting thing. I mean, I'm pro Carmelo Anthony. Okay, I am. Like, I really believe that if he ever had a real team around him, he could have won a championship, and he would have had to get some luck to go his way, no doubt there. But to me, like, Melo only ever really had two teams that were kind of good enough for his skill set. Now, at the same time, you could argue, well, what the hell? You're supposed to carry a team that's okay and take them really far. Like, okay, fair, if you want to throw that criticism at Melo. But it's just like, you know, he gets traded to the Knicks. Stoudemire is immediately not the same guy. They're changing coaches. The front office isn't doing that great of a job. Also, I should mention the other team that I think actually built something around Melo was when they went to the conference finals and lost to the Lakers in 6 games. Now, was he like amazing in that series? Probably not. I mean, 27 on not great efficiency, and we know Melo's all-around game was always suspect, so defense and passing and all that stuff. I mean, again, like, Melo, certainly not the first guy that I would pick to lead a title team, but I do think that if the stuff around him was right, it could have happened. Maybe. And I guess just looking back on Melo's whole tenure with the Knicks, it's just interesting to think about how many opportunities he really had under those circumstances. But again, if you really want to dive into the hypothetical time machine and think about, well, what if the Knicks never made the trade then and would have just waited to sign Melo, if that was even possible? I mean, if they still could have gotten him, yeah, it probably would have been better, because, you know, the team just would have had actual good players like that. But you know what? When you got an opportunity to get a star player, you do it, because you don't get that opportunity often. And the flip side of the Carmelo Anthony trade is kind of like the James Harden trade, where Houston makes the move, and we're all kind of like, well, is Harden really that good? And then we find out quickly, oh yeah, he's actually that good, and Houston got that move right. This is what happens when you do that same move, but things don't totally go your way. And I'm sure you can distribute blame and bad luck to wherever under that whole thing. So that's it. Carmelo Anthony trade. Still don't fault the Knicks for doing it.